I was going to call this a quad theory video, but it is not a theory in any way. It's just purely a guess. It's just a notion I got from Brian Morris's test that he did recently. He compared a pretty similar motors, but different kVs. He compared a 2140 kV motor to a 25 or 2450 kV motor, basically a couple hundred kV difference in the motors. And he noticed that the 2140, or the lower kV motor, just felt like it was loose in the air. It didn't feel tight. It didn't feel like it really had good control. Whereas the slightly higher kV motor felt like it had really good tight control. While this is really just a nuanced difference, and you can do all the same things with both quads. Both of them are fully race ready, and you can do all acro and all racing, whatever, with both. The higher kV just feels nicer, and I felt the same thing in my quads. I feel like I just prefer the higher kV. It just feels more tight. It feels like it's got more control. And I've wondered why, because I have felt this from the very, very beginning. Back in the day when the RCX 2205, 2350 came out, there was a 2600 kV option, and I just felt much more comfortable with the 2600 kV. Now that I know about BL Heli 32, I came up with this kind of idea, and I don't know if it's true, but it might make some sense. So BL Heli 32 has a lot of new options and features in it, but the one most interesting feature to me is that the ESC actually sends back RPM data to the flight controller about what the motor is doing. And with that RPM data, the flight controller can have more control over the craft and can do more with all the information that it's got. So based on that concept, I came up with this idea that the reason why we prefer, me and Brian at least, prefer the higher kV motors is because when the flight controller sends a signal out to the ESC to tell the motor to go to like 30%. The motor has to execute that 30%, but the flight controller doesn't know what the motor RPM is. The motor's RPM changes when it's a low kV or a high kV motor. So the higher kV motor, when it blasts to 30% real quick, it's going to have more of a drastic change in RPM than a slower motor. This is purely a guess. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So the higher kV motor kind of exaggerates the output of the flight controller. Now, I know what people that are experienced might be thinking, well, we have PIDs, that's why we have PIDs, and that's how we tune them to make it feel the same, feel right, and I thought the same thing. Yes, but I'm going to throw something in there and kind of like diss everybody in this hobby. I don't think anybody really knows how to properly tune a craft. I mean, I've been doing this for 2 years, and I am far from professional or the best at any of this, and I'm sure, Steele and Skitsko and all these top guys can tell you exactly how to tune a quad perfectly, but I have never been able to take a quad from nothing that flies like crap and tune it to perfection. Like it just has never happened to me. I'm really good at tweaking a quad, and that's why I haven't made my PID tuning part 2 video, because honestly, I just now take stock Betaflight, tweak the P a little bit, tweak the I, maybe move the D's up or down 1 or 2 notches, and I'm done. There's no more tuning. The prop wash is gone, and I feel great in the air. So in theory, you should be able to turn up the P gain on a lower kV quad and turn down everything else to compensate in order to get that tight feeling back. But I don't know how to do that, and I don't know if you guys do. I don't know if anybody really does. I don't know how they can get it like perfect with no prop wash and get the feel that they want. But for now, I think the fix to that is just to go with the higher kV motor. I mean, that might be my lame brain way to fix it, but that's the best that I got for now. It's just a theory, and I think that, not even a theory, it's just a guess, and I think that when the BL Heli 32 ESCs become more mainstream and the flight code actually does something with the information it's getting back from the ESCs, it will then change. It'll change to the point where I think those slower motors will feel the same as the higher kV motors. But for now, the trouble is that if you prefer higher kV motors like I do, you just have to deal with the excessive amps that the things pull. I mean, the high kV on a 5-inch prop is just pulls so many amps you can't deal with it. But I think that's also why I prefer the higher kV motor on the heavier quad. So this is the 600 gram quad. This thing weighs 590 something all up weight when I'm flying, and I still prefer the higher kV, even though it's pulling excessive amps. And I know I should be running at the lower kV, and in the past I have recommended a lower kV motor for heavy quads. I still prefer the higher kV on the heavy quad, and I just don't use max throttle as much. I just use less max throttle so I can deal with the amps a little bit easier. Just an interesting thought. It kind of like turned all of my knowledge upside down, what my preferences are and what I think and how I think about quads and how I build them and how I put them together. So I don't know. Hope it helps. Please tell me what you think. I have no idea no idea, you know, I've said this multiple times in this video, I have no idea if this is true in any way, shape, or form, but it is just a guess, just a notion that I've gained over time of, you know, flying these things for so long, and just like, not so long, for a year, 2 years, and kind of just gaining this intuition. Don't forget to floss. Bye-bye.